Good morning, Lauren. I think the numbers are happening this morning.
They are. I see them moving already. Good morning to you. How are you, Lori?
I'm doing fantastic. And we just had a 3-day weekend that I kind of didn't even know about till the last minute. Did you enjoy yourself?
I did. I did. It was decent weather, but we got some food on the grill and had an extra day to rest. So that was awesome.
Wonderful. Well, I'm up here in South Dakota. Next week, I'm going to promise the audience. So those that are already here, I'm going to promise that I'm going to show you a few pictures at the beginning. I am in the Black Hills, South Dakota. I have never seen anything so beautiful, Lauren. It's this green trees and grasslands, and then this bubbling brook, and my Baboo, my cat, I'll show a picture of this, guys. We go for bike rides every morning. She loves riding on the bike. She is so addicted to the bike now. And we went out this morning before the show. I was like, I need to feel a little grounded. And we went for this beautiful bike ride. So I am just in a very peaceful state. So I am sending out to everybody in the audience this peace and wonderful feelings from Black Hills, South Dakota.
That's awesome.
It's pretty cool. I'm having a great time. So I will tell you guys more about it next week. I'll take some of the really cool pictures and I'll give you a visual and I'll show you a picture of Baboo, my cat, in the backpack, right? And I was in the park and a burro came up behind me and I didn't hear it. And Baboo and the burro had a stare down, and I got the picture real quick of her in the backpack staring at the burro. I'll get that picture for you guys too. So you'll keep me to it, I promise. So with no further ado, Lauren, kick us off for this wonderful show.
All right, let's do it. I can't wait to see the photos. I can't wait to see the stare down too.
It's pretty funny.
I think I'm not alone because I see that there are comments in the chat already too. So I will dive right in. It looks like our numbers are steady so far right now, Lori. So good morning to everyone. My name is Lauren Simpson. I am with the SBDC, or the Small Business Development Center. We are a national program with over 1,000 locations across the country, and we offer no-cost services to local small businesses. Now, our services are at no cost to you because your tax dollars have already taken care of our fees. So please be sure to get in contact with us and, find out something about our resources. Now, so for the Los Angeles network, which serves the Los Angeles, Santa Barbara, and Ventura counties, you can see their our physical center locations, say that 5 times fast, on the map in front of you. You'll see we're located in Camarillo, Santa Clarita, Pasadena, all the way out to Laverne, throughout Los Angeles, the South Bay, down into Long Beach. Now, I mentioned those free resources, and here's a deeper dive into that. So you'll see that we offer no-cost business advising, and so you're able to sit one-on-one, currently via Zoom or a phone call with one of our business experts. And we have experts in various fields. I'm talking about marketing, to construction. If you're a handyman currently and you're looking to go into construction officially, we have someone specifically for you. If you are just starting out and looking to create a business plan, we have people for you. And then you might even get lucky enough to sit with our guru of all numbers, Miss Lori Williams, and she'll get you straight. I know numbers, for me at least personally, can be a little scary, but she has a way of making you love them. I don't know how. I never thought I could say those words, but she's amazing. And she also has a ton of really great colleagues that can assist you as well. Now, we also offer virtual trainings, and those are comprehensive workshops that assist you in beginning your business, adapting, and or growing your business. Lori's also a part of a team that we have here. It's called the ACT team, Access to Capital team, and they're fantastic as well. So again, we have tons of resources. Please be sure to get in contact with us. And you can do so by calling 866-588-7232, or you can go online, smallbizla.org/new client. Now, if you've reached us and you're outside of our service area, that means you are outside of the Los Angeles, Santa Barbara, or Ventura counties. Please be sure to go to americassbdc.org/find-your-SBDC. And you'll be able to get connected with an SBDC very close to you. Now, really quick housekeeping before I hand the show over to Miss Lori. Please be sure to put all questions into the Q&A. Again, questions into the Q&A. You'll notice that the chat will be reserved for any links that Lori would like to share with you. But it also is where we have the party. So it's where we, the audience likes to engage and chat with each other as it relates to the topic at hand. So with that, Lori, I'm going to pass it over to you. I'm excited about today's show.
Well, thank you, Lauren. I'm so glad that the chat is such a party for each person, because I love it that you guys get to watch the show and then engage and talk amongst yourself. I think that's what made it special. And I have to do a shout out to our audience and our frequent flyers, because, Lauren, you and I did not create the party in the chat concept. They created the party in the chat concept. So that's pretty cool. And thanks for mentioning the ACT team, the Access to Capital team. I'm going to have another ACT member on. I think it's either July or August. As you guys may know, funding and financing companies is getting even a little bit more tricky these days. So I wanted somebody to come back on and talk about it. So that's kind of a big preview, since it's not even June yet, and that won't be till July. So coming up closer to what's going on right now, let me go into today's Mythbuster. There's things that come up quite a lot, and those I like to at least mention on the show. The topic I'm talking about right now can be expanded upon for just hours upon hours, which I do, and I delve into in great detail during my financial literacy webinars. But at the same time, I wanted to at least bring it up because this is such a crucial, important thing to understand. So my topic under my Mythbusters is let's discuss profitability. Profitability is such an important factor, and small businesses know it. They heard the word, they understand it, but they may not know exactly how to measure it, how to monitor it, and when they should be profitable, or is there times you're not profitable? Now, these are, like I said, we could expand upon whole sessions. So I'm going to introduce the topics. And once again, you need more information on this, you can take my webinar. You can also get in touch with Lauren. Her email's always in the chat for you to reach out and say, hey, I need a one-on-one with Lori to go over this in detail. So first of all, I want to be very clear on how you measure profitability, guys. So often when I hear people speak, they say, well, this is my revenue. The company is doing well. The revenues are growing. This is a complete incorrect statement, guys. It's not that it's inaccurate. It's incomplete. Notice the word I said, incomplete. The revenue increasing is a component of profitability. I have seen companies with huge revenue increases and go to bankruptcy court, okay? It's not about revenue. It's about the entire alignment with all of the factors, and they are the revenue or the total sales, minus any cost to produce, minus expense is the net income, net profit, net loss, all mean the same thing. This is what you want to measure, okay? This is the mathematical equation you want to measure. Now, can you rely on your internal accounting documents to measure that? Probably not. This is the crux most people do not understand. Companies that are 26 million or less, as deemed so correctly by the IRS, must report their finances on a cash basis. That's cash in, cash out. So your internal accounting documents are set up the same way, and they should be. It all aligns with the financial reporting. But for managerial accounting, it may not be correct, and more than likely is not. Quick, simple example. Say you purchase some inventory in December or November, or you put a down payment or a payment on an insurance you're going to use throughout the year. The QuickBooks and your tax returns are going to show that entire amount. But that doesn't mean you sold the inventory yet. So when you look at that equation I did a minute ago, all sales minus all cost to produce minus all expenses equals net profit, you have to do some backsheet calculations. You got to say, okay, if I sold this many products, how much did it actually cost me to produce that same amount? So you can't look at your internal financial statements unless everything happens on a cash basis in the same relative timing. Otherwise, It's not going to tell you whether it's profitable. It's just telling you, did you bring in more cash than cash went out or not? That's all it's telling you. And when startups are supposed to be profitable, people say these expressions, and I spoke about this a couple weeks ago. Well, you're not profitable for a couple years. Once again, this is inaccurate because it's not complete. Whether or not you're going to be profitable at what time period is dependent upon the business model. If I start out as a consultant and I have very little overhead, I should be profitable day one, okay? If I have to buy a bunch of assets and I have to buy plant, property, and equipment, it's going to take me longer to be profitable. So instead of making a bold statement or an assumption of when you should be profitable, instead ask questions. Questions are very powerful. When is it that I'm going to be profitable? What is causing me not to be profitable? What am I spending the money on that's causing me not to be profitable? And are there any other decisions I can make to be profitable sooner to help my cash flow? These are the important questions to ask. I'm going to delve into this a little bit more in each topic during the Small Biz through the summer because these are so important. So with no further ado, I've got my upcoming classes. Lauren's going to put all this into the chat. I'm on session 3 of the financial literacy series, which is all about managing the business from a managerial accounting perspective. The series begins again in June. Lauren's going to put it in the chat. I didn't list it here because there were so many dates. So you'll have access to that. I'm bringing back the best legal structure and the tax advantages because that's a very important webinar. I'm getting a lot of response. So I'm bringing that back at the end of May. And I'm bringing back the should you be charging your customers sales tax in July. Both of these last two presented by the Pasadena SBDC. Shout out to Annie. If you're here, I'm sure you are. And we thank them for presenting this. So upcoming shows next week, we're bringing Elaine back, Elaine Rodriguez. Some of you may have remembered having her on the show. She's got a delightful, bubbling personality, for one. But what I'm going to have her talk about, because she's exposed to all types of small companies and entrepreneurs, and she's very involved in all of these startups. I want to have an open conversation with Elaine going, hey, what's happening out there? What's the opportunities? We're going to talk all about opportunities. In the next week, Judy's coming on, and she's the Chief Executive Officer of Evolution Solutions. She's going to come on and talk about kind of the mindset and different thoughts about being a business entrepreneur, etc. And then I invited Arnell to come back on. Some people might have seen the first one, Arnell Originals. Arnell had so much happening from starting her company to running it to managing inventory and relationships and then to selling the company that I felt like I did not get to do justice to cover all of those aspects during the one show. So even during the show, I invited her to come back on. I know more people want to hear about what she did to prepare her company for sale, etc. And so we're going to get back to that as well. Okay, so with no further ado, that brings us to today's show. Now, many of you might have known that we've been advertising it, that Nadia is coming. Nadia could not come today, but we are so lucky to have Karla Estrada coming in her place. Now, Karla Estrada is a graduate from UCLA and a long-term advocate for immigrant justice since 2009. Due to her work, Karla collaborated with UCLA, USC, and other universities with a step-by-step guide on the legal definitions and limitation of AP. We know those legal definitions can get confusing right there. Some people start to read a legal contract, they just see the definitions and the words and their eyes gloss over immediately. Karla created guides and attorney lists for the review and use of the UC system. Nowadays, Karla has joined Tzedek to continue the important work of serving community in other aspects of justice. Karla, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Lori, for having me, and Lauren. And hello, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here this morning.
And I'm so glad you just jumped in. I appreciate that. It's like, okay, I'll be on your show. Here I am. So, Karla, let's start out. Talk a little bit about your background. Let us get to know you, Karla, and then a little bit about the company. So why don't we, before we get into any kind of details on different legal matters, let's just get a little bit of information about you and the company.
Absolutely. I joined Tzedek several months ago. So Tzedek, it's actually a nonprofit organization here in Los Angeles. We are located in Koreatown. So like, if you ever want to come down to Koreatown, get some tacos, get some Korean barbecue, and you're a business owner and you just want to learn about your business, there we are. And very conveniently in front of a metro station. So you don't even have to walk. So it's great. And so yeah, but Tzedek, we are a huge nonprofit, Lori. So right now I am in the Small Business Development Program at Tzedek. So we serve with pro bono free services to the community, business owners that have legal questions such as intellectual property, privacy issues, lease agreements, contracts, or anything that you can think of really when it comes to legal transactional, spaces and help. But we don't do litigation though, so no court for us. But other than that, we serve absolutely everything that you can think of when it comes to small business legal needs.
Well, you already stated a very long list of important things. So before we go into any of that, can we at least talk about, can anybody qualify for these free services? Is there certain restrictions? Can we just give it a general idea? Because I know my audience, they're already, okay, where do I sign up? Can you call me today? I know them, right? They're great about taking advantage of resources. So let's add some clarity on what is a requirement to take advantage of these resources.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you for bringing it back. So all our services are 100% free for LA County residents. So you do have to be in LA County. Unfortunately, we do not serve the DOC or any other county. But because all our resources are 100% free to the community, we do have eligibility requirements that depend on each individual. So the individual is going to apply for our services and we determine. One of our biggest factors, however, it is income, personal income and business profit. And we usually serve low income and mid-income business owners. However, we take into consideration like, oh, is it woman owned, minority owned, a single parent. We do take, into consideration socioeconomic status as well.
So really, we should say, which I used to say during the pandemic with certain things, if you're in need and you're not sure, at least go to the website, identify it, talk to somebody, and maybe apply. You will see if your circumstances work with the situation. Would that be a good way of stating it?
Absolutely. I would say like whether you're sure or not, just apply. We want to talk to people, like we are out here sitting down every day and we're just like, where's people? We don't know. Come to us, just apply. And, and as somebody will call you regardless of whether you qualify or not, we will call you. We will call you. And even if we, for some reason, you don't qualify or we cannot offer the resources to you, do not fear, because we do not let anyone hanging. Even if we cannot serve you, we'll be like, you know what? Here are resources for you. Here are some links for you. Here are some referrals for you. So we just want to talk to you, really.
That's wonderful. And that's what I thought, because a lot of times too, and I know this to be true of a lot of organizations, if they can't serve, they may have a list of different resources that this might be a stepping stone. You make a call and then you're aware of someone else. So great. Thank you so much for sharing that resource with everybody so they have an additional place to turn to. So I know today's goal, guys, and in the audience, we're not giving legal advice, okay? That's our little print. We're just talking about hypothetical situations. And we're going over some things that you need to consider. And Karla's just going to share her expertise on things she's seen and noted in the marketplace, et cetera. So that kind of sets the stage for what we're going to talk about. And Karla gave me a list of the different things that they do help with. And so I picked a few from the list, knowing that there's situations that we come up against. So Karla, here's my first one. As part of the service offered, you work with companies to obtain license. Now, Karla, I cannot tell you how many companies are confused about what license they need to obtain, whether they're a brick and mortar do they need to obtain. And furthermore, Karla, I'm going to say not only are companies confused, but I'm the one that answers those questions at the SBDC, and I get confused on it. And what I have to do, and this is what is really behind the scene, guys, is that I'll get a call from one of the clients and they'll say, hey, do I need license? And if it's an area that I've looked up so many times, I know, but I still go back to the government website because it could have changed, right? If
Yes.
it's an area I don't know, I go to the government website, I read through the websites, I do the research, which may entail going to a few websites to get the understanding. And so that's where I always tell people is to go straight to the horse's mouth. Not that I'm calling the government a horse, or maybe I am, I don't know. But, what I do is I tell them, Karla, don't get the information of whether I need a license from a blog. Okay. This is not
Exactly.
it, right? So let's just take the general term of business license and just give an awareness to some of the types of license a business may have to get. How about if we just cover it in that area? Therefore, everybody in the audience can have something that may be of importance to them.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Well, I think one of the most important factors to, think about before even thinking about licenses is to understand what type of business you are trying to provide to the community. Are you a street vendor? If you are a street vendor, then you need a vendor's permit that you can get in LA County. Maybe you are a person that wants to set up a restaurant. Are you going to sell alcohol? Then that is a very important factor that you need to understand and research in the city and the state for alcohol licenses. Maybe you are a person that is in cosmetology, an independent contractor, an accountant. So all these plethora of other things. So that is something that before anything that you do, you need to understand what type of service, what type of benefit you're providing to the community and what professional licenses you must obtain. And, and again, sometimes just Googling is so confusing.
Yeah.
You get like random websites from do you need a license.net? We don't want that. So I think one of the very important things is that the first thing that you do if you're in California, which I hope you are because this is a California party, search for the CalGold, calgold.ca.gov. And
you put that in the, that's a very good resource. We've never brought that up, Karla. To be honest with you, I forgot about it. When it first came out, it was very limited, but now it's been out for a while and I've not mentioned it. So let's slow down. Let's get that into the chat. That's a great resource.
Absolutely. Let me just put it in there. I'm going in the chat right now.
CalGold, guys, is, I'm going to explain, you maybe you'll explain it better than I, but I see it as kind of a depository of all the information regarding license, and it's run by the government. And when they first started it, the goal was that you would be able to go there and it'd be the authority on everything you need. And to be honest, Karla, when they first started, and it's been some years ago, I didn't refer people to it because it just wasn't user-friendly and complete because it just started. And I think it's come a long way now. So glad you mentioned that. Everybody should put that in their ticker file. I say Google where you want to go this weekend, what bar you want to go to, what restaurant, what shirt you want to wear. Don't Google legal, finance, tax, government regulations. These are not Google things, okay?
No bueno, that is right, because we get so many people are so confused. I'm like, you know what? The aunt of my uncle of my friend told me to do this. No, never do that. The aunt of the uncle of your friend, they don't know. Know.
That same thing all the time, Karla. And there's something else you said that was really important that I want to capture. And Lauren, if you can put this in, because you said it and I picked up on it all the time because people don't realize it. City and state license. They think, okay, if it's a state of California, but they don't understand localities. I call them localities, but cities and counties, they have their own set. So you've got to do the thorough research on all of those.
Exactly. Good point, Lori. And actually, what I will do is put in the chat that you can also go ahead and, the LA City itself requires a business tax registration certificate.
Yes.
So if you are in LA City, so you need to obtain that in order to, legally have your business here in the city. So I'm going to put it in the chat as well.
Yep, Karla, okay, this is one of the things that I tell people all the time. When I first say to them, do you have your business license? And I'm just telling you the way I say it, Karla. If I say, if you're in the LA City, get that business license from the Office of Finance today, because they are one that really are, with no disrespect, just facts. They're pretty aggressive on cross-checking addresses against tax returns. And here's the deal, guys. If you properly have your business license, which it used to be about $75 or something like that. I don't know if that's still the case, Karla, but it's if you properly have the business license and you fill out the renewal on time, there is on the records, and it's been as long as I can recall, an exemption for companies that have revenues 100,000 or less that you are not charged a business tax. If you don't do either of the two, you pay that regardless of revenues. So it will cost you more than it would for the license. So Office of Finance, thank you for bringing that up. Extremely important. And, we just talked about the LA City, and I want to kind of expand on that outside of LA for a second, because what a lot of people don't realize, and you may be aware of this, if not, you just tell me, Karla, but what is termed by many of the localities as a home office permit. And I'm going to also say one more sentence. People get it in their head, and this is true of the LA City too, and they say, I'm working out of my apartment online. I don't need a business license. And that is not true. You want to take that with the City of Finance and correct that myth?
Yes, correct. That is very important to note, because there is a lot of business owners that they're out there hustling, doing the good work with their online stores or online clothing stores. And they just think, well, the internet, it's literally the World Wide Web, right? We don't need anything. But
Right.
no, it is very important that you go and search your jurisdictions as well. Yeah. Make sure that everything is 100% well with your licenses, with your permits, whether it is online or a physical structure in the city or in the county, just so you don't have any issues like down in the road, and so you can be safe, your family can be safe, and you go ahead and thrive like the queen and kings that you are with your businesses.
That's awesome. Yeah. And, you will get letters because they do check it. And I think what people, to make sense to it, to help you understand, is previously, years ago, before you were old enough, Karla, no, I'm just kidding with you. I always talk about how I'm old, but, you had mostly brick and mortar. And so these cities and counties and jurisdictions got their tax money, their tax revenue from the brick and mortar permitting. When everybody went online, they had to change course as well. And so that's why you have these home occupancy permits, because it was always intended to have a certain amount of tax revenue on being in business. And so the act of business changed to online. It took them a little bit because there was not as much online business, but once it moved in that direction, they changed the requirements to the tax permits to not be just brick and mortar, be internet, online. And the same is true of sales tax. That's why I have that webinar, but whether you should be charging sales tax, because it changed from nexus to economic nexus back in, I think, 2019, 18, 17. I don't recall the exact date. So a lot of things that you might have believed from history, you don't need it for that. You have to reconnect with it because things have changed, because the way we've done business. And, we use the word jurisdiction a lot. I realize, Karla, and I use the word a lot because I'm around government and political things. And a lot of people don't understand quite what jurisdiction means. We should just go back to the underlining foundation. What is somebody, when I say know your jurisdiction, what am I saying to somebody?
Well, first of all, I think when you're thinking about jurisdiction, you need to think about the locality that you're in. For example, I am located right now in Koreatown, right? I am in Koreatown. Like, what does this locality, what does this area like require of me. You know, like it's always very important for you to center yourself and actually go on the map and be like, okay, what is my district number?
Yes.
You know, like what is my district? Who is representing me? Like where am I really? Because I don't know how many of you know well, what's your district? I don't think I even know the district that I'm living in. I have to Google it right now. Look at me. I don't know my own stuff where I live, but you know, but it's very important for you to do as a business owner.
And you can pull up this, you can Google and you go to the government, you make sure it's .gov, and you can pull up the district and the jurisdiction. And these are really important to know because these are the foundation of your rules. And if you ever want to reach out to your representative, this tells you who to reach out to. And then we have, you know what, if we're going to talk about jurisdiction, I kind of feel like I've got to come up with unincorporated because we at least mention unincorporated. You know what, Karla, if I do this, everybody's going to go and they're going to go, I'm unincorporated. What does that mean? So why don't we at least address unincorporated? Because I get a lot of questions. What does that mean when I'm unincorporated? So can you take that one for us, Karla?
Absolutely. Actually, I just put on the chat a quick link for the district locator. So if you are like me and you have no idea where you are, then do not fear. You go into that link, you put the address and the zip code of your locality or your house if you have a business online. And then it's going to tell you the district, the LA City Council. If you're in LA City, if you're not in LA City, it will tell you other stuff. And it will also tell you whether your area is LA City, LA County, or unincorporated. So you have all the information there that you need, so you don't have to fear. I'm actually going to go ahead and then put on the chat also the neighborhood information that goes into even more detail than the district locator. That way you don't have to even think about anything and just copy and paste and, you know, save it in your desktop like folder and
Oh, thank you so much, Karla. These are great links, guys. Everybody copy this out of chat. These are great links. And I just saw, as I was looking in chat, Christine talking about how they redrew the lines. And that is so true because they're always, not always, I shouldn't say that, but they do redistrict. And so you may be sitting still and suddenly you are in a new district, which could change your requirements. And so it's really important to have this information. I'm so glad that we're addressing this because once you know your district, you know where you can look into the website. And the other thing that I've noticed is over the time period when I will go on a website, Office of Finance is great about this and many of the other ones, you first put in the address and zip code of the location and they will tell you if you are located in there and thereby need a permit or if you do not. So those were additions that have come along the way as well to give you a clue of whether you need. So when in doubt, go to the government website and then put the address in. It will tell you if you need a permit. And it's also important because, like, you know, you said with your services, you have to be a resident of this versus that. And that's true of a lot of the grants as well. So these are kind of like when you own a business, this is kind of like you need to know your company name. You need to know your EIN if you're incorporated. This is another aspect or layer that you really should have an understanding about. And then the other thing I wanted to bring back up, Karla, is you mentioned alcohol license. There's also I don't know how much you're familiar, but I'd like to bring one more thing up if you're familiar enough with it. Because when you said alcohol, it just kind of made me think about another confusing thing. Cottage industry. You know, that is where I've studied just enough to be a somewhat unexpert, right? Because what I'm talking about to the audience, and then Karla, I'll have you comment on it at all, is that say I want to bake a cookie and I want to sell it at the farmer's market. Do I have to go to a commercial kitchen? Do I not? And I'm not saying we're going to answer that question. I just wanted an awareness that that comes under the cottage industry. And I don't remember the date at all, Karla, but it's maybe in the last 10 years, they've changed that and they've lightened it a little bit so more people could engage in baking certain things in their home. It has to do with ingredients, it has to do with quantity and where you're selling it. So that's just a little input, but there's also a ton of websites that you can go to in the government to find out more. I had to get really involved in this, so I became real knowledgeable, and then I kind of dropped it until you brought it up in my head. So any comments you can give people on cottage industry?
And you know what? That is something that I think an attorney would be able to do better. I am just here for like general information, but in regards to food permits and baking goods, yes. There are federal and state regulations right now that you need to, obey practically, to adhere to in regards to safe and health.
Yeah.
And for you might even need an actual food permit for that in order to sell goods in large quantities, especially baked goods, actually.
Yeah.
So that is very important for you to go ahead and research in the government website. I also actually just put on the chat like a quick link to LA County specifically in order to search permits and licenses for your specific jurisdictions and needs, like whatever you're selling. But it's very important that, because a lot of people, especially food vendors, it's hard, it's very, very, very hard to think about everything, especially when you're just a starting business, a small business owner. So it's important that if it is a drink, if it whether it is alcoholic or not, whether it's something that it's edible and you're offering it to the public, you most likely need a license and a permit for that. It's very important. Yep. Especially in this age right now, where police are really cracking down on street vendors, for example, that are selling food and beverages on the streets. It's very important that you go ahead and research that and make sure that you have a food permit, you have a beverage permit, and if you're baking cookies, I am there, but also needs to have a permit.
And Karla, another thing of interest on that, we talk about street vendors and anything like mobile food trucks, etc. So I'm just making a comment to the audience on this. You also have to really check into sales tax, because sales tax differs on the food preparation. I had to look up something, and the sales tax on their website, they actually have download PDFs for the mobile food industry. They have it for the digital industry, great resources there. But I just recently had to read up because I found out that there was a difference to whether you're serving a hot coffee or a cold drink in certain things. So my statement I want to make to everybody, because there's the sales tax has, whether it's part of the final fabrication, it has all these different fine points. You want to never assume. You don't want to try. I'm going to say something, and I almost thought, well, this is kind of bad to say, but it's true, so I'm going to say it. Don't apply logic to whether or not you're going to need these things, because you can't logic them out. There are so many different rules that overlap. We can't say, well, logically, I shouldn't need it. You really just got to go and see, does it need it or not? So don't logic yourself into an assumption, into a fine, okay? No logic to assumption to fine. No good. No bueno, right, Karla?
Exactly. No. Besides, you don't want no fines. All your money is yours. Put it in your pocket so you can spend it. Don't give it to the government. So yeah, it's very important.
Don't give the government any more than you have to.
Exactly.
Don't give the government any more than you have to. Well, awesome information. Let's go on another topic that is really a confusing topic. And this one, guys, is even more generic, okay? This one's going to be even more just kind of talk around it, if you will. And that has to do with contracts. So I'm going to make a couple statements to begin with to kind of launch us into this, Karla. So I get a lot of companies, saying, do I need a contract for this? Do I need a contract for that? Should I see a lawyer, et cetera, right? And so I make just a few kind of global statements. I say there is a little bit of a difference, in my opinion. This is my opinion, guys. There's a little bit of difference when I'm talking an employee contract, when I'm talking to maybe a contract to buy some, some cost of goods, some raw material. Employee contracts are real important for me, in my way, to have a lawyer involved in it, because now we're talking about many employee rules that you can get into trouble really fast, right?
Yes.
Now, when it comes to vendor contracts with a vendor, I am not saying that they're not important in that statement. I'm just saying employee law is so complex. You want to make sure you have somebody that is engaged in it. We have a wonderful HR person from the Pasadena SBDC that comes on quite a bit for us, and she really elaborates on this, and we learn through it how complex it is. But what I always tell them is, when it comes to vendor contracts, even if you don't go out to a lawyer and get a lawyer contract, at least put it in writing in an email. And I always emphasize this one point, Karla. I say, I know it sounds like I'm saying this to have legal binding, and I'm not saying it for that reason. Yes, it may provide you legal binding. I'm not a lawyer. I can't state that, but I can tell you one thing, and this is my personal opinion from being old and in business a long time. If you put it in writing, and if you have somebody even sign it, it causes the recipient to read the details of the agreement. It causes you to be clear about the agreement. In that, the lack of clarity, expectation, and understanding, in my opinion, is one of the major causes of lawsuits. I didn't think that. I didn't expect that. So if you are forced to write even your own contract in these type of purchase relationships, then you are clear. The reader, if you make them, just the act of telling somebody to sign something, suddenly they're like, you could like go, and then I need you to deliver the goods by this date. And they're like, la, 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 and I need you to sign them. They're like, when did I have to deliver it by? It changes the dynamics, right? Yes. So the act of you writing it down, creating clarity, them having to sign it, they're going to read it. You are going to me, forego a lot of the reasons why lawsuits even come to it. So let's just talk general forms of contracts, and I'll let you give some of your philosophies. I gave you some of mine for whatever they're worth. They're my Lori-isms, so give us some Karla-isms, okay?
Absolutely. Yes, I agree 100% with Lori. You need a contract. And a lot of people think, oh my gosh, contracts, I have to go get a lawyer, I have to get a notary public, like I have to do all these things. Oh my gosh, no. Like, even if it's just a blank piece of paper and you're like, Karla Estrada, is providing this service to Lori Williams, and she must pay me by January 3rd, 2023. And if not, then she's going to be a $50 increase for each month, right? Like, even if it's just that simple, please do so always in writing, because, sometimes, life happens and a person forgets to make a payment, or a supplier doesn't give you what they're supposed to give you, and you have no way of proving that there was an agreement, because a lot of people feel more comfortable talking on the phone, right? But nowadays that is just not safe anymore, and you have to put everything in writing. Even if it's just a napkin, put it in writing. And I do want to highlight one of the most important contracts that you have to think about as a small business owner is to service and purchase contracts, right? Service agreements. Oh, what am I servicing? What is the agreement between me, the small business owners, and you, my supplier, like even the customer itself? Like, what am I providing to you, and what are you giving to me? It's very important for you to go ahead and write all that information. And I'll just give you 3 points for you to think about for any contracts in the future, whether you make them, you get a template, or you go ahead and search for a pro bono attorney at Tzedek, or any other service. Is 1, the name of your business, 2, the name of the party or the individual that you're servicing, and 3, it's deadlines deadlines and any other thing in regards to liability towards you and your business. So those are the three most important points that you should think about when you are writing these contracts, or you're trying to get someone to write this contract, that you must think about before engaging in any activity, really. Like, you don't want to be liable of anything, and you don't want people to take advantage of your amazing product. So it's very important that you always have a service agreement,
Yep, great point. Carla, it's just business is complicated nowadays. Maybe at one time we said, hey, I'll trade you a cow for 30 chickens. You had to remember 1 cow and 30 chickens, okay? It's not about that anymore. It's very complicated. And that's why it's so important to write these things down. Yeah. Because even, you create it and you forget there's so many details to everything. Well, before we end the show, there's a couple questions and I just want to bring them up. Some of them are basically to me, but I want to make sure I address them. But one of the questions is Saya, I think, if I said his name right. So first of all, he's mentioning that he's a community college student. Do I teach any courses at LBCC? I don't teach on site. I used to teach at Pepperdine and USC back in the day, but here's the good news. I am on the internet. You can go through, in fact, through the LBCC SBDC is where the financial literacy courses come from. So I don't do any physical one-on-one teaching anymore, but I'm online and I have a whole lot of courses and different things I offer there. Now, he also mentioned that during the pandemic, he fell behind on the LA City taxes. I know several people have. He's in collections. Where can he go for help? I thought I recalled, now I could be wrong, that on the website, it actually has a place you can reach out if you need to talk to somebody about payment plans, etc. But I don't know. So Karla, on that, he got behind on the LA City taxes. He's in collections. He's got to communicate with somebody. And where should he go to begin this communication?
Let me just double check the question.
Absolutely. Yep. So you could see, just looking for someone, a direction on where should he go. And I know, like when you go on the sales tax and, the California Department of Tax and Fee, it says, do you need to create a payment? So I'm going to answer one of the other questions because there may be a link that you can direct him to. On the anonymous that's looking to grow your small business and you need a loan and you're getting several parties to bid. Now, I'm not going to give you a specific to several parties to bid. I'm going to give you kind of another way of talking about it, if you will. So I'm going to suggest that you get Lauren's contact information, and Lauren will direct you to a team member of the ACT, the Access to Capital that we talked about at the beginning. So just a little quick on how they work. They're first going to go through your numbers and help you to make sure the numbers are correct, your accounting's in the right order, and they're going to look at what types of what banks, lenders, institutions would be a good, I'm going to use the word, a good fit for you based on what you're trying to finance, whether it's equipment, et cetera, and where you are financially. And what's great is instead of just sending it out to an online site where you're getting a bunch of people to bid on it and you don't know if the terms are good, you actually have somebody that's looking at your numbers, making introductions, walking you through the process, helping you to understand the language. And please note, this is all free, part of your tax dollars, part of SBDC. So Anonymous, one of the members of the ACT team, is your place to go to get this kind of help, and Lauren will make sure you get to somebody. So Karla, back to you on the question, if it's any kind of information you can provide to them.
You know what? I think that question should be, if you fell behind on your LACD taxes, the first thing that you need to do is Tzedek, unfortunately, we do not deal with that type of situations with taxes. However, I think that first thing that you need to do is to go and to the city and see if there is a comprehensive payment plan for you to pay those taxes to the city. I know that there are because of the pandemic specifically, there are payment plans that are still in order for you to get you to do those payments and not accrue any interest or any penalties for your LACD taxes. For the person who asked this question, I do have very specific resources. So I am going to put, if it's allowed, I'm going to put my email there.
Yeah.
And therefore that you can email me so I can send you those resources specifically for you after, you know, like conference with my team. So we can give you the best like answers that I can give you, and you know, and then we can work from there, because I don't want you to get confused, and I don't want you to be like, oh my God, like, have you seen that cat? And then you're like this. You know, I don't want you to, yeah, like, I don't want you to be like that little cat. So let me put my email address there, and I will get that information for you.
Awesome, Karla. Thank you for helping. And you know, the first thing I always like to tell people is a lot of times when this happens to them, they shy away from speaking to anybody. And the first thing you want to do is contact whoever that creditor is, whether it's a vendor or a government agency. Beginning communication makes it all. Okay. You really want to begin the communication. And I always tell people something they don't realize is the IRS, and I didn't know this until I went for my training to become an EA, an enrolled agent. There are higher penalties on not filing than not paying. I was astonished about this. So really, you know, a lot of these agencies, they set up payment plans. They want you to pay. They want to make it feasible for you to pay. So the first thing you want to do is communicate with them. So this
Absolutely.
has been awesome. Karla, thank you for coming on today. You have shared so many awesome resources with us and links. And we've had a kind of discussion that I wasn't even knowing where we were going to go with. And this has been invaluable to the audience. And I am sure that they have gotten a lot out of it. So I want to thank you so much. So Lauren, I'm going to bring you back on to close us down. Haven't we learned a lot today, Lauren?
So much. And I love that you, Karla, you were using the chat too, just dropping in information. That's super
I
helpful.
was told the party was down there, so I had to, you know, like, I had to go to the party.
You are always welcome in the party.
Absolutely. So I want to say a big thank you to Karla, and I want to thank to those new in the audience. Welcome. I hope you will join us again next week. Frequent flyers love you. So glad. So thank you so much, everybody, for being here on Small Biz Talk with your host, Lori Williams. Lauren, I'm going to let you close us down, and I'm going to say to everybody, I will see you next week for another great show. And Karla, thank you again for being here today.
Thank you so much. And just one last thing, I went ahead and put on the chat the Tzedek application. So in case you, we always say at Tzedek, we really hope we never see you, because it's never good to have an attorney. But if you do, then we're here for you. I put it in the chat. So if you have any legal questions and legal issues, or if you don't right now, which thank goodness, but in the future you do, think of us. Think of us.
Okay.
Thank you, Karla.
Week. Bye.
Bye, Lori. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks to everyone who joined. Please be sure to check out the chat. We've got tons of resources there. Karla added her the website to her company. We've also got my email address. So if you'd like to get in contact with Lori or Karla. Karla also, though, did share her email address. But should you need anything at all, you know, we're here. It was another great show. Thank you so much for joining us for Small Biz Talk, solutions for your small business. We will see you next Wednesday, 10 a.m. for another show. Take care. Bye.